The Polygraph Bill, a bill to prohibit the use of the polygraph in police officer discipline investigations and to examine its use in police applicant screening. What is a polygraph? A polygraph, or lie detector, is an instrument that measures the involuntary physiological changes of a subject's body functions as the subject responds to a question or statement. Polygraphs are the most popular lie detector test used in the United States. Polygraphs measure physiological arousal factors, including heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, and perspiration, which affect skin conductivity. The theory of the lie detector test is that these physiological responses will be different when the subject is truthful versus when the subject lies. Therefore, the term lie detector test is a misnomer of sorts, since the test does not speak to the truth of the answer or statement, but rather to the fear, stress, and anxiety of the subject as he or she answers. What exactly does it measure? The instrument typically used to conduct polygraph tests consists of a physiological recorder that assesses three indicators of autonomic arousal: heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, and skin conductivity. Most examiners today use computerized recording systems. Rate and depth of respirations are measured by pneumographs wrapped around the subject's chest. Cardiovascular activity is assessed by a blood pressure cuff. Skin conductivity, called galvanic skin or electrodermal response, is measured through electrodes attached to a subject's fingertips. What is the basic idea of the polygraph? The polygraph test is based upon the belief that when a person lies, they become anxious and, as a result, the physiological measurements that the polygraph is recording will be higher when the person is lying than when the person is telling the truth. Is the polygraph accurate? The accuracy, that is validity, of polygraph testing has long been controversial. An underlying problem is theoretical. There is no evidence that any pattern of physiological reactions is unique to deception. An honest person may be nervous when answering truthfully, and the dishonest person may be non-anxious. Also, there are few good studies that validate the ability of polygraph procedures to detect deception. As Dr. Sachs and psychologist Gershon Ben Shahar in 1999 note, quote, "It may in fact be impossible to conduct a proper validity study," close quote. In real-world situations, it's very difficult to know what the truth is. Is the polygraph accurate? Some confusion about polygraph test accuracy arises because they are used for different purposes, and for each context, somewhat different theory and research is applicable. Thus, for example, virtually no research assesses the type of test and procedure used to screen individuals for jobs and security clearances. Most research is focused on specific incident testing. The cumulative research evidence suggests that CQTs detect deception better than chance, but with significant error rates, both of misclassifying innocent subjects, false positives, and failing to detect guilty individuals, false negatives. What do the experts and the courts say about the polygraph? Polygraph testing has generated considerable scientific and public controversy. Most psychologists and other scientists agree that there is little basis for the validity of polygraph tests. Courts, including the United States Supreme Court, have repeatedly rejected the use of polygraph evidence because of its inherent unreliability. Have there been any big studies? In 1999, the Department of Energy asked the National Academies of Science to review the scientific evidence of the validity and reliability of polygraph examinations, particularly as used for screening. The resulting committee visited governmental polygraph units and reviewed almost a century of scientific papers and data. Its comprehensive report, which took 4 years to research and write, was damning. Quote, "Almost a century of research provides little basis for the expectation that a polygraph test could have extremely high accuracy," close quote, wrote its authors. Quote, "Polygraph testing yields an unacceptable choice between too many loyal employees falsely judged deceptive and too many threats left undetected. Its accuracy in distinguishing actual or potential violators from innocent test takers is insufficient to justify reliance on its use in employee screening." What effect does the examiner have on results? Data obtained by Wired online magazine showed vast differences in the outcomes of polygraph tests depending on the examiner each candidate faced. Consider a law enforcement agency that uses polygraphs in its employment process, the Washington State Police. Between late October 2011 and the end of April 2017, the Washington State Police conducted 5,746 polygraph tests on potential recruits. This was the largest data set Wired reviewed, including copious data on applicants and examiners. While one examiner failed less than 20% of candidates, others failed more than half the applicants they screened. And while 2 examiners disqualified just 4 people in more than 1,000 applicants for supposedly having sex with animals, one of their colleagues failed more than 10 times as many for bestiality, around 1 in 20 of all job seekers. The same examiner was also twice as likely as the rest of his peers to fail applicants on the grounds of child pornography. Can polygraphs destroy the careers of innocent employees? Not only can failing the polygraph test cost you a job, it can also follow you around throughout your career. People who fail a polygraph are usually asked to report that fact if they reapply for law enforcement positions nationwide, and some departments can share polygraph results with other agencies in the same state. Quote, "The polygraph's great flaw is the substantial number of false positives that it gives out, especially when you're using it for large-scale screenings," close quote, says former CIA Director James Woolsey in a previously unreleased interview from 2009. He believes that polygraphs do not accomplish much more than, quote, "seriously damaging a lot of people's lives by having them fail the polygraph when they haven't really done anything," close quote. Is the polygraph biased? A study carried out by the Department of Defense's Polygraph Institute in 1990 showed that innocent black polygraph examinees were more likely to suffer false positives than innocent whites under mock crime conditions. The National Academy of Sciences report in 2003 worried about possible race, age, and gender biases, but noted that little research has been done in the area. Quote, "We know that there's a potential effect of gender and race in terms of the mix of polygrapher and subject," close quote, said NASA Committee Chairman Stephen Feinberg in 2009. Quote, "We know that context matters, and we know that there can be systemic biases," close quote. And discrepancies aren't only between examiners. Around the U.S., most police departments use similar test formats and near identical lists of questions, yet polygraph pass rates vary wildly. According to data supplied to Wired, the toughest place in the country to take a polygraph could be Houston, whose police department passed just 32% of applicants in 2009. More recently, less than half, 47% of applicants passed the San Diego Police Department's polygraph test in 2017. Slightly more lenient is the Texas Department of Public Safety in Austin, which passed 60% in 2016. But if you fail there, you could try again down the road at the Dallas Police Department, where 77% of test takers passed last year. And if the thought of all those wires and dials really gets you nervous, head to Baltimore, where more than 91% of applicants aced the polygraph in 2017. Despite similar tests and presumably similar applicants, especially in Texas, the department's pass rates are wildly different, and these rates have varied little over multiple years. But while polygraph examinations can be a lottery, history seems to show that the House can sometimes tip the odds. Is favoritism an issue? Discrimination can work the other way too, if departments are giving preferred candidates a second shot at passing the test. In a 2014 internal survey of the San Diego Police Department's polygraph unit supplied to Wired, one police officer noted, quote, "I feel the examiners do a good job. They always offer to retest if we want to," close quote. This calls into question whether all applicants are treated equally and suggests that even some police officers suspect the test is not always accurate.